Game on, ladies! Alright, here on our stand, and we have, to the top left, Starshaped in our Nightelf versus a human, Raspot, down at the bottom right of the map in blue. Okay, awesome. So, with this, let's have a little bit of a look how this is going to pan out. Different matchup now for us, of course. We went over some of the basics of Warcraft 3 in the last two games that we commentated. And if there are any additional questions, we're going to address that, of course, here. But for the time being, let's have a little bit of a look at this. Of course, Starshaped... I mean, we have a lot of really cool here... players signing up for the tournament. Sock is playing too, so Happy might actually not walk away with an easy victory. He so far won every single one of the Ryzing Cups, which in total puts him now into 7 wins. This is the 8th cup, so that's going to be interesting to say the least. But yeah, let's have a bit of a look what's going to happen over here. Already, Moonwell is in, and as you would expect, the Ancient of War built a little bit farther forward so that he can access one of the bigger mercenary camps immediately. I went over this in the second game that I casted, but of course there are different, like a lot of those mercenary camps are just a little bit too difficult to take with just a hero and 1 or 2 units in the early game, but especially Nightelf can always just spread them out a little bit more thin with the bases and just put the Ancient of War right next to the camp. Have to be careful that they don't aggro the creeps during the building process. But now after the first archer is produced, you can sit the archer up, unroot or uproot the Ancient of War, walk over and use him as a bit of a meat shield for the ranged units as soon as the hero is out. Gets the second archer in now as well, but that's pretty much the gameplay that we're going to see from him. And on the other side, as you can tell, we currently have a quick Mountain King right here. Right, so with the Mountain King in, it's going to be a little bit of stumbled action. Bit of a different setup that you would usually see here, but I kind of like it. Footman is being sent over to have a quick look of what's happening here. Again, as in any RTS, being it StarCraft 2 or Warcraft 3. Scouting, always important. If you know what your opponent is doing, you can counter it. One of the reasons why RTS in general are struggling heavily with map hack usually. And when it comes to our first heroes here, we have Starshaped starting things up with the Pandaren Brewmaster. It's Panda time! Alright. So Chen is already in, and off we go. That's a lot of AoE damage they can push out with the Panda, and against low HP tier 1 units of a human player. Give one example, that's of course quite powerful. Once a Spellbreaker enters the game, if that's the case, then of course those AoE damage spells aren't really all that useful to you anymore. But especially in the earlier stages, you can be super aggressive. If there's an expansion, for example, being built, and you have already a higher level Panda, that's pretty sweet. And Slippers of Agility come through, has the Scroll of the Beast, which for a timing push is fantastic. But the Mountain King has also hit level 2, currently starting things off with the Stormbolt, as you would expect. And now the bigger question then is just simply, what exactly is he gonna set up second here? Can of course always go into Bash. If he doesn't worry about mana all that much, then a Thunderclap is gonna do wonders too. But yeah, we've seen a lot of Bashes recently, again, for obvious reasons. So, Town Hall already getting upgraded. There's a little bit of a scout happening with a Wisp on the side of Starshaped. He's also double checking what's going on here. Up towards the top. Hunter's Hall comes in, Tree of Life still pushing out those little tree huggers that we see here. So one wisp after another is going to cuddle up to the trees around them. And for some reason then get lumber. I never really understood how exactly that works. But yeah. If you think about it, like a wisp would be a fantastic salesman. If you talk about like selling fridges to Eskimos, then like talking to a tree and convincing the tree to give you lumber seems like a pretty sick deal. I mean, if those guys would be car salesmen, they would probably be rich, but instead they just huddle up and, yeah, produce lumber. Not quite sure if that's really the best career choice there, but what do you know. So, at this point, we actually see Starshaped taking out a couple of units. I mean, he's actually doing really well here in the early game. He's already looking at level 2.5, a little bit more than that. We still have the Wand of Mana stealing in the inventory of Raspot's Mountain King, but right now, Starshaped is doing really well with his Panda. That guy is just robbing around here and doing his thing. So down to the bottom of the map, the tech into Keep has nearly been completed. Blacksmith is now being built. Setting up 2 workers for that, so we're going to see Rifleman, obviously, for him. and a couple of hunts on Starshaped, those are not going to be too happy about piercing damage. Tree of Life is also getting upgraded though, so we are soon going to look at a potential second hero for him, and also Tree of Ages. Now that camp is already about to be taken, at least he's setting himself up for it, but there's still that slight aggression that we're seeing from Raspot. I want to call him Rasputin the entire time, like I don't really know why. Right? We started with Raspot and my head is just like Rasputin the entire time. So he's going to try and just like get a little bit more action in, just to interrupt as much as he can any kind of creep pattern that we're going to see from the Nightelf player. Second hero also in, and with that we're actually getting, oh, Blood Mage cancelled, and the Archmage in instead. Okay, so we're not going to see any kind of mana drain and an action around that. Instead he's trying to play it with the Brilliance Aura. Talking auras. Lion Horn of Stormwill. Pandaren Brewmaster is very, very happy about that. Yep, so first of all, there's Lion Horn of Stormwind, and at the same time, we have the Scroll of the Beast. Okay, coolio. He had the scroll already previously, but he is going to have some very nice fights in his near future if he uses that properly, before any Dispel is around. Also, in this case, Mountain King is already coming in. Bam, Stormbolt into the back line, where the Forest Troll Berserker is sitting tight here. Still level 2 for the Mountain King. The Panda has already reached level 3. That gives him quite the boost here. And the Mountain King has actually not skilled a second skill yet, but Stormbolts are being hammered out here. And there's the level 3 right now. Should see the upgrade. Archmage also now in play and starting things off with the Water Elemental. Level 2 Stormbolt now, of course. But when it comes to supply, Starshaped is just massing gold. He is starting to, he was at 1,000 a second ago, is finally starting to produce a little bit more when it goes for the production structures here. So he's pretty much only playing this with his hero and a couple of hunts that he has around. Starshaped now with 23 supply and 700 gold, whereas the human player is sitting at 40 supply himself and gets those... not only those riflemen into action, but also has a couple of priests that are now starting to join the game, which means that Dispel is going to be available soon, and he also has some heal power for himself. Hunts go down, but if he can take a few of those riflemen apart, that would be the dream. Ooh, that was unlucky. Yeah, that the little footman that could. Harry the Footman was trying to get something done here, but unfortunately he underestimated those creeps a bit, so he's down too. But just in general, Starshaped buys himself time. He is, well, maybe a little bit short on lumber, but generally speaking, he is taking quickly, going straight into the Tree of Eternity, having Ancient of Laws now being produced, so he can go into Roots of the Claw here. And Raspot, he is playing with those riflemen, but he invested a lot in his army now, of course. Now, if he expands, it's a bit of a different story, but the problem for him eventually is going to be that he's going to trail behind in tech. I mean, that's just a given. So he will be quite behind in tech once that Starshaped decides to rush in with those level tier 3 units that he's going to have. Starshaped himself now also with the Parrot of Vitality, which puts him nearly to 1,000 hit points on the Panda. Once it hits level 4, that's definitely going to be the case. And now that one camp after another is being taken by Raspot, he is going to look at a few level ups, especially of course for the Archmage, but generally speaking, he needs to somehow be able to deal with the army that is eventually going to come his way. We already have the upgrades being researched for the Druids of the Claw and for the Dryads, and the first Dryads are already in, and the Panda is just happy to move around and creep even more. Gets a couple of scrolls for himself, so any kind of AoE damage is going to be dished out by the human player can be dealt with. We have Bash as the second talent now for the Mountain King, finally. Also, Brilliance Aura. Finds a Wand of Illusion and starts to scout immediately. But Starshaped is going to try and play with the superior numbers here. I like that. Scout farms are always such an annoying thing, so if Raspot walks over, sees that the spot has already been grabbed by his opponent, sees the gold mines, and like, well, here's a scout farm, and take that. The thing with scout farms is it just takes a long time to really take them down. They're pretty hit point heavy. And, oh, Lionhorn of Stormwind for him too. Look at that. There's a lot of those around on this map. So yeah, it's a pretty good way of actually scouting your opponent as a human player, just dropping a couple of farms everywhere. But in we go. 39 supply now for Starshaped. He has a level 4 Panda. That beast is obviously getting highly powerful now. Staff of Preservation is also in play. Gets another Scroll of the Beast. The last one was sold, and now that he uses the Wand of Illusion again, he can pick it up too. So that's quite a bit of gold for him. But slowly and steadily, we have Raspot walking over. He has his 50 supply now, so he has actually hit the cap to low upkeep and is trying to get the aggression set up now. But in the main base of Starshaped, we already have him researching the Druids of the Claw Master Training. 2 of them are already in the game. And that means that soon enough he's going to be able to rely on 2 tier 3 melee units. Level 5 Panda is another great tool, and now that he is actually done creeping his army up, he's just moving all the way up to the top. Town portals back. And just says, alright bro, let's do this. 49 supply for him too. Lost a few of the Moonwells, which of course now means that he's also looking at a supply block. Needs to build more Moonwells if he wants to get out of that, which is maybe not going to be all that easy for him. Couple of towers are being built. Stormbolt and the Staff of Preservation saves it right away. Here come the Druids. Starshaped has the Druids of the Claw in and a couple of Dryads with that too. But again, he has a tough time rebuilding any units without the Moonwells. Level 4 already for the Mountain King. And the Stormbolt hammers down hard on the Panda, who now in the inventory also has the Orb of Venom. Attacks are in, and the Dryads with the Rejuvenation are able to move themselves out of harm's way and survive a bit longer. Whereas that Priest has a bit of a death wish. He nearly committed Sudoku right there, but was moved back by Raspot immediately. Another Stormbolt, and the Druid of the Claw gets staffed out with the Staff of Preservation just before it falls. The Dryad is not so lucky though, so 1 Dryad already dead. Starshaped down to 43 supply. We have Raspot at 48, but that Mountain King is taking a bit of a beating here. He needs to be quite careful. Also, another few units have moved in since he bought a couple of the mercenaries, but Starshaped is now down to 39 supply, and he might have gold that he could use to build a few more units, but without Moonwells, that's going to be a neat trick to pull off. So he needs to be super careful here. And Raspot is realizing that he has a pretty solid chance here. With 2 attack upgrades on the Rifleman, he's starting to go in for the focus fire. But, of course, that Staff of Preservation is being used time and time again. Mountain King still has a little bit of mana, and a good Stormbolt and some Focus Fire could really put the Panda in a lot of trouble. But we also have nearly level 6 on him, and that's going to be a game changer. Archmage on 3 then again. That gives him the Water Elemental on level 2, so that's a huge tool to be using in this fight. Finally, another Moonwell is ready, and Starshaped, now sitting at 32 supply, can finally start to produce a couple of units. Goes in with the Panda, has the potion, has level 6, and uses the potion at the last second. Is running out of mana though, and forces the town portal. The Mountain King has to make his way out here. Raspot is at 42 supply now, and Starshaped at 39. But the level 6 Pandan Brewmaster is definitely gonna be a problem in the long run. And if you look at the main base with the tier 2 tech now on Raspot, the only thing that he relies upon, he doesn't have an expansion, he doesn't have tier 3, so he's going to fight throughout this entire game with tier 2 against tier 3 units, because at this point Starshaped has more and more time to just rebuild his army. It's night as well, so the Moonwells are currently recharging energy. One of the Wisps is a little bit lazy and idling over there, so that one needs to be put back on lumber. But yeah, he's going to get quite a little bit of work done. So another attack from the human player might be the only chance that he really has there, unless he wants to go for a long game instead of an expansion after all. So far it's still a one-base play from both players. But Starshaped with that hero, I mean, level 6 Panda is going to be quite neat for him. That's definitely going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot. Especially since the army is now being rebuilt, and with 49 supply, you can already tell that they are just dead even when it comes to army supply. And here's really one of those examples where you have a 2-hero play going up against a 1-hero play. Now the Archmage being taken down in the last fight is currently getting revived here, so he needs to wait for that. He's also attempting to get some additional experience points for the Mountain King. Having level 3 for him would be pretty nice, because that level 3 Stormbolt is the perfect tool to put additional pressure onto the Panda on the other side. Mana Stone in the inventory, that's a nice tool too. Gonna have a huge mana pool to deal with. Starshaped, that is. But it's still one base versus one base. And in come the additional items. Claws of Haste. And nice! Nicely done! The building cancel as the long distance Storm Ball was hammered out. But here comes the Nightelf player. All of a sudden, this entire fight is being reversed. It's the human who is sitting on the defense and trying to make something happen to survive long enough to maybe push it again. And Starshaped is already expanding up to the top, right under the nose of the scout farm. Absolutely not afraid to show that here from the get-go. Yeah, 49 supply against currently 48. And a couple of items are going to be bought here. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability is one of them. Over here, Raspot. Yeah, he needs to try and get first of all his army healed up again. He has 2 scrolls of healing, which is very, very nice for him. And has still that Lionhorn of Storm in inventory. But obviously the human player is now on a timer, because not only do you look at a situation where he doesn't have tier 3, but also his opponent is building an expansion. So how do you deal with this? Well, in this case, he's trying to build his own second base, apparently, to bring that into the late game. If that's going to be the right play or not, that's a different question. Going up against those Druids of the Claw is definitely going to be quite difficult for him, no matter what he has there. And Starshaped hasn't really added any upgrades yet for his units, but that Panda alone is just absolutely brutal. Panda on level 6.5, and yep, that Breath of Fire alone is already doing incredible damage. But here comes the setup. Storm Bolt is in, and the Panda with 1,100 hit points and the Potion of Less Invulnerability is just absolutely murdering. Militia, of course, being summoned here, but once you have another Breath of Fire coming through, those are going to lose hit points within just a second. Staff of Preservation being used, and welcome to the Furnace, baby! In comes the fire, and they are taking those militia down without any problem whatsoever. Alright, in they go. And, well, here we have it. Attack after attack is coming in. And let's see what else is going to work with that. Starshaped, he needs to pop his ult eventually, or at least go for the Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. So far, hasn't really had any need for that, but we still don't have an expansion. Starshaped is still sitting at 59 supply against the 48 of Raspot, and all the way up to the top. Well, Starshaped is still looking at a tier 3 base, has an expansion coming up, needs to, of course, heal up his units. Rejuvenation is going to be great for that, has the Moonwells ready, and I feel like the only thing that the human player at this point can seriously do is try and take the space down. If he is unsuccessful in eliminating that Tree of Life, then he is going to have a lot of trouble. So that's going to be a huge problem here. But, yeah. Okay, so in comes the attack already, and, well, let's see. That one's down. I can't believe that. I mean, he wants level 5. But he is really starting to lose time here. He's the one on a timer. We have mountain giants now in the game. So Starshaped, the longer this lasts, the better for Starshaped. Because his base is just going to be up so much quicker. He's going to get the double income. He can build more items, buy more items, build more units. He already crossed over into 58 supply now too. But this is exactly what we're looking at here. This could be a really dire situation for him. But yeah, let's see how this is actually going to work out for him in the long run. At some point he needs to really just bite the bullet and say, alright, let's go for it. And so far that hasn't really happened. He has 2 attack upgrades and 1 armor upgrade now for those priests. Sorry, for the rifleman. Priests are on adept. But the more time that Starshaped can buy himself, the better for him. And that's the only thing that he needs to do here. So, yep, they're starting to rotate around down to the bottom. Again, if Starship now attacks the main base, for example, I mean, what exactly is Raspot going to do? He needs to kind of fall back. Starship has to make the decision if he's willing to sacrifice that natural or not. But the attack is going to be in, and just the knowledge alone that there is no second base for his opponent is going to be fantastic for Starship. And here comes the attack. Those towers are obviously going to fall, and now the only question is, does he immediately move back, or does he sacrifice and go for the main base? Given his position out at the bottom of the map, we are likely going to see a town portal here. But he's currently waiting for that. 1 tower down, 2nd tower also getting eliminated, and does he move into the main? Nah, of course he portals back for this one. Why wouldn't he? He has all the cards in his hand. Can move straight in. Oh, and immediately jumping into the clap here. Mountain King starting to fire that clap out. Has it on level 3 now. He retrained his his hero, and he gets actually a fair amount of damage out with this. Panda is on level 7.5. There's a second clap in. That level 3 clap is just bonkers. I mean, holy shit, son. He is murdering. Raspot all of a sudden is just crushing that army. Guys, like, he portaled on top of the Mountain King, and the Mountain King just, like, clapped away like a happy panda. It's like it's a kid's birthday party or something, clapping all around, and he just drops everything. And Starshaped walked right into it and lost, I mean, I don't want to say half his army, but he lost a huge chunk of it. He was 20 supply ahead, and now all of a sudden they're dead even when it comes to the supply numbers. There's still 2 Mountain Giants, but they're also eating damage, and Raspot is actually looking at an extremely solid position and has now a chance to take that base down. If he kills the Mountain Giant now too, there's the staff. Of course, Staff of Preservation. But that game changed quickly. This is the power of double hero in the late game. Archmage soon gonna be on level 4, and that retraining on the Mountain King, that was just perfect. That really was the best thing that Raspot could do here. Not really focusing on that Stormbolt and focus fire with Rifleman anymore, because let's be honest about it, you can't kill that. I mean, you can't kill that Panda. Potion of Lesser Invulnerability. On top of that, also more than 1,000 hit points right now. If you try and go for one of the Mountain Giants or a Druid of the Claw, what's going to happen? He's just going to staff them out. So now playing around Clap and with a bit of AoE, that's great for him. There's no scrolls in the inventory of the Panda. So that's a huge issue. That's a ton of damage that is being dished out with that. So he's doing extremely well with it. In the main base, then again, 140 gold is not a whole lot. Up to the top, 20 for Starshaped. He's actually going to the oversupply now. So this is all that we have. 61 supply for Starshaped and 53 for Raspot, and that's that. He needs to use those wisps for a few detonates in order to get all of the mana away from those priests. That's probably his best tool. Having the Panda on a high level is definitely highly impactful, but a Mountain King on level 5, nearly level 6, is nothing to sneeze at either, especially with 2 scrolls of healing in the inventory. Archmage doesn't get anything. There we go. Share cooldowns, obviously, so giving one to the Archmage is kind of nice. It's also just a nice thing to do. I mean, let's be honest about it. Look at that inventory of the Mountain King. He has more than enough. It's just like it's like that mean sibling that gets all the toys and doesn't share anything with a little brother. Granted, calling the Archmage a little brother is maybe a little bit weird. I mean, the guy is 120 years old or something, so at least he looks that way. But in we go. That's the final setup here. Items. I mean, the stage is set. He's obviously trying to now also get the Tree of Eternity somewhere. Not the fastest, as you might have realized already. But, yeah. That Panda is nearly level 8, by the way. Then again, we nearly have the Mountain King on level 6. Half a level's missing for him. But in we go. Here comes the attack, and this could be the final fight. Arcane Tower is down, and here we go. Clappity clap clap, baby. Panda on 8. Level 8 Panda. First Dryad is down. Scroll of Healing already being used. A little bit more clap action, and the Stormbolt follows shortly after. Mountain King is just hammering the spells out one at a time as quickly as he can. Goes straight into the backline to take another one of the Dryads down, whereas the rest of the human army is starting to fall a bit farther back into the range of the Arcane Tower. Another clap comes through. Staffs from the Panda all around, and the Archmage with another Scroll of Healing just in time. But the Mountain King is already a little bit low and also has no mana any longer, as we see a couple of Destructors coming through. 46 supplied inside of the human player, whereas the Nightelf is still relying on 51. Arcane Tower down. Another Breath of Fire, Potion of Lesser Invulnerability still being used, and they are just on the run. The units and heroes are losing hit points on the side of the human player. Starshaped probably not really expecting this much resistance here after he had his base build and also the expansion in play, but now at least he is starting to dominate again. 50 supply for him, long distance mining at the bottom of the map, 40 supply for Raspot, and of course that Panda is just starting to become more of a menace every single second. 8.5 is what we're looking at right now. So he is doing some serious work here. Well, I mean, look at the hit points alone. 1,250 without any HP boosting items. There's a few more creeps on the map, and he's thinking about grabbing those, but the water elemental that was placed off to the left side in order to scouts spots it. He still risks it. He needs the gold. It's not even about the experience for the Archmage. It's really about the gold and the items here at this point. Yeah, that Forest Troll Berserker already scouted it out, and the army is on the run. Another Breath of Fire. Didn't really connect with too much, but at least one of the priests gets slightly roasted. Bit more scouts happening also with the Wisp now. But of course, thanks to the Walking Tree of Eternity, we have a base up and running for Starshaped in just a second. Again, time is his ally. He has income, his opponent doesn't. He's sitting at 50 supply, 40 for Raspot. And just look at that Mountain King. Has an Ankh of Reincarnation now in inventory, so that little bastard is even tougher to kill now. But the problem still is the same. He doesn't have any income. He doesn't have any there. The human player really has done a great job in this game. I gotta admit. I mean, 2 times I really thought that Starshaped already had the game in the bag. And every time he came back, that retraining on the Mountain King did so much for him in the fight over the expansion. But Starshaped never really yielded the field of battle. He has a few more items now that he can lock in. We don't have any creep spots left on the map, so that's really limiting the options of Raspot 2. He only has the long distance mining, but what are you going to do at this point? Buy yourself a couple of items, I guess. But the longer you wait, the more gold Starshaped has. And Starshaped is now looking at a 16 supply advantage over his opponent. He's easily moving into the main base and says like, well, it's time to go shopping. Panda wants a couple of nice items too. Yep, there's already a Moonstone being used, so those Moonwells are going to be helpful for him. Still has that nasty Orb of Venom in the inventory. And right now, Raspot is pretty much just waiting to die. That expansion, I mean, where I come from, we call that wishful thinking. But of course, what else is he gonna do? Just type GG without even trying? Unlikely. There's always the chance that your opponent pulls a bit of a brain fart in the fight, doesn't hit his items properly, and then you can get a quick kill in against the hero or something else. But I wouldn't really expect that from a player on the caliber of Starshaped, so he's going to move down to the bottom of the map and try to take that down. And yeah, that base should actually never come in. If the human, on the other hand, is able to save that thing, that's a different story. But well, time will tell. With 62 supply against 40, this is an insane advantage that Starshaped now has. And it comes down to the heroes. Is that additional level 4 hero that we see for Raspot really going to be the thing that's going to win it for the human player? Or is Starshaped just going to walk all over this army now? He has 1-1 upgrades on the Dryads and the Druids of the Claw. As well as the Mountain Giant, of course. But here we go. It's Mountain King time. Stormbolt and the Panda is just like, stop for a second. There's the Staff of Preservation as the focus fire in the Druid of the Claw is not quite successful. The attacks keep coming. And yes, this is what we call a problem. AoE is just too much to handle. The priest already falling. The GG is called as the Panda levels to level 9. Starshaped is victorious on Terranor's stand against his human opponent. Nice game though. Well played by Raspot and nicely done. GG.